Hey, what's up everybody? This is Superbrick501 and today I want to show you guys another incredibly strong Moze build. This is kind of a variation of my most recent Moze build, but this one is a lot tankier, almost unkillable. Like in most situations you don't even have a chance of dying. And it does have some different talent choices and a bit of a different item selection. So with all that being said, this is also a contender for my Guardian Takedown build for Moze. And with all that being said, we can go into the talents. Now, this is a really high shield build for Moze, which is pretty much you get as much shielding as humanly possible, and you have 1 health with that shielding, but you are able to heal your shield with the class mod you're using. And we'll go over all of that when we get to the items as well. First, we are going to go into the Shield of Retribution tree, because this is kind of the main place where you get a lot of your defenses and some pretty big damage increases. So first, Armored Infantry, you get gun damage and damage reduction when your shields are active, which if your shields aren't active, you're dead. That's up all of the time. Then we have this, which gives shield recharge rate, max shield, and shock damage resistance, all really high. So big survivability increases. Then we have Thin Red Line. A portion of your health is reserved for more max shields. And since we're using items that already put us to 1 health, this just gives us more shielding, because this acts like that we have a max health bar. Even though without this item, we'd still be at 1 health. It still takes the health and gives us shielding depending on what our max health would be. So still super strong shield increase. Drowning in Brass with 3 into this, which is just a stacking buff for damage increase. You lose some fire rate, but with these launchers, it's not a big deal at all. Experimental Munitions, which when your Iron Bear scores a critical hit, you deal increased incendiary damage. The rocket launcher we're using, and a lot of the newer rocket launchers can all still crit, and most rocket launchers in the game have some way to be able to crit, so that's pretty good. Desperate Measures, most of the gun damage and Iron Bear's hardpoint damage are increased depending on how low their health is. The lower the health, the greater the increase. With us, we're sitting at 1 health, so this is up to 100%. This is 100% damage increase, pretty good. Now, we don't have any points in a Phalanx Doctrine, which gives us gun damage and max shields, stacking up infinitely, but the stacks don't refresh shield stacks. And we have 2 because of our class mod, and I think putting talents into other spots and getting to a capstone that we're able to get to is better than putting more into this, even though this is a super strong stacking buff. But we do get 2, so that is pretty good with itself because of our class mod. So then we'll go into Bottomless Mags. Not much in this tree, just Cloud of Lead every 4 shot. Doesn't consume ammo. Deals extra incendiary damage, which is just a damage increase. Stoke the Embers, which all of our damage is dealing incendiary damage, so a 30% increase is good. Then a Redistribution when we crit, which you can with the rocket launcher. You gain percentage of your ammo of your magazine, and we heal 2.5% of our missing health. Healing through this gives us shield back, and with having a massive shield bar, I think close to 90k, 2.5% of that per second is a pretty good amount. So now one of the main trees, Demolition Woman, because we do get our capstone of this. We have Fire in the Stagden, which anytime we do a splash damage, we get extra incendiary damage on top of that. All super good. Everything deal damage with does that. Means Destruction, when you do a splash damage, you have a chance to gain grenades and ammo back. Super good. Toward Cross Promotion has a chance to double your splash damage and gives a splash damage increase. Super good. Pull the Holy Pin, your grenades can now crit, just a decent damage increase. Then Auto Bear helps us deal extra damage and helps us proc Means of Destruction more, which helps us get ammo back, helps us heal more, all good stuff. Vampire, which when you throw out grenades, they heal you when they hit things. Pretty much with our class mod, this heals our shielding, not our health, so this is our main way of surviving, and it being percentage again is super good when you have a ridiculous amount of shielding. Explosive Punctuation, when you do splash damage, your cooldown rate is briefly increased, which is super good. We can get out more Auto Bears. We want our Auto Bear to be out all the time for the damage it's dealing, for the extra Means of Destruction proccing. Then Short Fuse, super good capstone for any explosive build. When you deal gun damage, there's a chance for a secondary explosion centered at that target that deals 75% of your gun damage. Super strong, especially with a rocket launcher. If you're dealing millions or hundreds of thousands of damage and it does an extra explosion that hits a little bit less than that, still going to be incredibly strong. So that is all of our talents. Also for our Iron Bear, we are using the V35 grenade launcher with lock and speed load, which makes it pretty much shoots out like grenades or little missiles that shoot out in 5-round bursts. We just want as many explosions at a time or as quickly as possible as we can get them, because it'll proc Means of Destruction more. So with all that being said, we can go into our items. Now, like I said, this build is very similar to one of my most recent Moze builds. We are using the same rocket launcher, which is the back burner. And if you want to learn a little bit more about this, you can go watch my most previous Moze build. I go over it in that, but it's super strong. It shoots out a projectile that pretty much creates a singularity that shoots out a bunch of smaller projectiles that do most of the damage. And those smaller projectiles can all proc your means of destruction. And I'm pretty sure the damage over time that the vortex creates can also proc means of destruction. Not 100% on the vortex, but just with shooting one of these, hitting a bunch of targets with one shot, you can get a bunch of means of destruction procs because it hits very frequently. For this build, more specifically, because we don't have that infinite ammo after Iron Bear, you have less choices on weapons to use. Now with this build, something like a Scourge could still probably work, but something with less projectiles hitting, like less small hits being hit, you probably couldn't use a Yellow Cake as much, even though that is good ammo. Probably couldn't use an Iron Cannon. So I would definitely recommend getting these back burners. Again, the 300% increased damage above 90% health is a great anointed because of how much damage this thing actually deals to single targets when you hit them. So just get one of these, try to get as many different elements as you can on these. They come in every element, so try to get as many as you can. And that anointed is very good, but there's some other good anointeds as well. After Xing Iron Bear, you get increased splash damage, super good. Any damage increase is going to be really good on this as well. Now for the shield, we're using the same thing, the enhance old god, because when you're mobbing, this having the corrosive, as we'll go over, is super good. This one gives increased damage, elemental damage resistance, max capacity, all super good, super tanky. If you don't have one of these, just try to get any tanky shield with on action skill end, gain increased elemental damage. Again, with the increased elemental damage from the anointed, don't stack the same one on your shield and grenade mod because it won't work. On my grenade mod, I have a cloning maddening tracker, which is what you pretty much need for these builds. I have shock damage on this, so don't stack the two. Try to get different ones with different elemental damage on the anointed so you can switch them up whenever you need them for different situations. And that's pretty much all. Tanky shield, cloning maddening tracker, pretty much what you need, same as the last build. Now we're gonna change it up. We're using our class mod, we're using a bloodletter, which is if Moze would be healed, she gains shields instead. This is pretty much the integral part of the build. If she would regenerate health, she also gains shield regeneration, which is super strong. Pretty much everything that heals us through talents heals our shielding instead. And this is super strong. The talent rolls on this are pretty good. The increased damage and the Phalanx Doctrine stacks, pretty good. The rolls on this are decent, but I could definitely do a lot better. Splash damage, pretty good. That helps with everything. Weapon magazine size, it does help with this rocket launcher because we don't have infinite ammo, so we do have to reload sometimes, and being able to reload a lot less is very good. Weapon charge speed, not very useful for the weapon we're using, but can be useful for other weapons. Could get a little bit better rolls on the bloodletter, but still really good. Then we're using the Flesh Melter Deathless. This might be a little bit hard to get, but probably not that hard because you can farm it. This is why we use corrosive weapons while mobbing, and that's pretty much it, because this stacks up 27 times 5, 135% damage increase. That outweighs any elemental countering pretty much. So if you're using shock against shields, that's going to be better for the most part, but if you have a stacked Flesh Melter with a corrosive weapon, that's going to be higher damage than the shock, dealing shock to shields. And then the Deathless, which is incredibly important for this build, you only have 1 health, but you gain increased shield capacity, shield recharge rate, and shield recharge delay increases, all super good. On this, we have 50 magazine size, which is really good. For our rocket launcher, we currently have 10 rockets or 10 ammo, and it only uses 3 a round. And with ammo regenning, as you can see, I got 1 extra ammo there. You don't have to reload near as much, so that's all super good. We then have shield recharge rate and delay, which is not as important just because of how tanky we already are. Those 2 rolls could definitely be better. So I definitely have some rolls to get for the bloodletter and the Deathless. But overall, pretty good rolls across the board. And that is all the items. That's pretty much the entirety of the build. Again, like I said, another contender for my Guardian Takedown build, depending on how that raid turns out. But super strong build. Much tankier than my last build, but you have to be more conservative with your ammo because you don't have the extra means of destruction talent points and you don't have the infinite ammo after exiting Iron Bear. So take that in consideration. If you want to see more Borderlands 3 videos, make sure to subscribe, leave a like if you liked the video, leave a comment down below what you guys think about this build, and thanks for watching.
Here's how you make an entrance. Viewers, don't how you want the whole thing to die. We got Borderlands standing by.
Get good or get dead, scrub. Maya, avenged.
Intel says there's an elevator down to the lower levels. Make your way there and be ready for some heavy resistance. I'm counting on you, Vault Hunter.
Push these rats back! I want a secure perimeter! Bulldozer spotted! We are compromised!
your mech tech, Malawan.
Those are advanced mechs, but we're after something